Hello, I come to you today with a tag. It is the alphabet soup tag. F is Fictionalized by Shawn the Book Maniac. Shawn is going through the alphabet in a randomized order and is giving us lovely prompts to talk about books. So that said, let's get on with the prompts. Number one is F is for fictionalize. And now he's got a couple of different things that you could do here. A is your take on autofiction. B, the writer you'd like to write the novel based on your life, pass. Or C, a work of autobiographical fiction that you'd recommend. So for my take on autofiction being when an author sort of just takes their life and lightly fictionalizes it and presents it as a work of fiction, and thus certain critics, certain booktube Steve Donahue's might make the charge that you can't criticize the book because how can you criticize something that's the person's life? Well, a poorly told life is a poorly told life. I think you can have bad language, have bad pacing, you can have bad selection of what you choose to tell. I think there's lots of things. So actually, I disagree with Steve that something just being autofiction in itself makes it impervious to criticism. Yes, I guess their supporters can attack you, or the author can say, "How could you say that about my mother?" It's like, you're not saying that about their mother. You're saying that about the fictionalized mother that you put in a book, and that is not the mother. Mother's over there. These are words on the page, and I'm going to criticize the words on the page. So I don't have those reservations with it. I came to I guess my first kind of thing of literary fiction when I was around 16 or 17. I went to the library and I was looking for books. I think I've said this many times before. Found a niacin through a niacin. I found Henry Miller, who wrote what would definitely be considered autofiction. It's this one, Tropic of Cancer, is all about him in Paris. That certain generation of Americans being in Paris and his hard scrabble bohemian things and him being a complete ass. And I love this. As a teenager. I have not come back to it. I have a feeling that I would not probably get along with it as well. I would not find the Henry Miller fictionalized in here as admirable or as romantic a figure. I probably have a lot more trouble with how he views and treats women in this book. So yeah, that's probably my earliest thing of it. As for a current writer that I could recommend for that, one that is very kind of seems to be Marmite would be Waikiametse. They use the pronoun they. Wrote Freshwater, a book that actually I share my love with Shawn the Book Maniac, which is about this. She starts off as a girl. Where it's goes through terrible traumas, and these gods appear inside of her, and a lot of the narration is through these gods. So it is autofiction, but it is autofiction taken to the kind of, this is totally, you are inside of this person's head in a very subjective way, which I think shows some of the great strengths of autofiction. That said, it is a Marmite book. There are other people I know on BookTube who did not get along with this book and felt that the autofiction that the author was so close to this story made it less effective. We can agree to disagree on that. So number two, F is for farm, a great book set on a farm or about farming and or you wanted to read. For that, I'll pick Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbon, published in 1932. It is sort of a kind of a parodic book, actually, about a big city woman who goes back to the grubby kind of it's like English hillbilly, kind of inbred, dumb. It's just like it's sort of it's a response to kind of all the romantic, bucolic country writing, and saying like, no, we need to actually bring kind of the light of reason to these people. But it's done in such an over the top way that I don't know if you would, particularly as a country person, take offense to it. I think some have, but so that is, I guess, my perspective. I grew up in Kelowna, which is like an orchard town, but I was definitely a townie. So I guess I'm coming from the townie perspective. So that's what came to mind. The other book that came to mind for some reason was Of the Farm by John Updike, which I read a long time ago, which is like a like it's like a 60s or a 70s novel, John Updike. I just remember amazing description of the treads of a tractor or something like that. But that I think was also, of course, for Updike is some guy going back to the farm and having lascivious erotic couplings with some woman. It's probably highly sexist, but for some reason that also came into my brain. Mostly for that one description, though. So nothing I would unreservedly recommend. I would unreservedly recommend a Cold Comfort Farm, though. Number 3, F is for Frank, Franny, I guess Fanny as well, or a writer you'd recommend or want to read whose first and or last name starts with an F. Bonus points for both first and last name. For that, I will pick George MacDonald Fraser and his Flashman series. So we got lots of F's in there. I don't have Flashman in there. George MacDonald Fraser took, he died a while ago, a Scottish writer. He took a bully who appeared in, is it Tom Hughes? Tom Hughes' Tom Brown School Days. There was a bully in there who gets tossed out of school for drunkenness, and he took that as his main character to become a soldier in the British Empire. But the great thing about these historical novels is that Flashman, Harry Flashman, is a coward and a cad and just an all around bastard who, though always through his adventures, manages to kind of twist things so he appears the hero at the end. And these are all kind of his memoirs of him looking back on his adventures. But I liked that it kind of preserved I like that it preserved the racism and the sexism of the time. So often in historical novels, the author doesn't want to alienate the reader by having them had to kind of hang around with a racist, sexist asshole for the whole time, which a lot of these people will appear to us to be. But it's like, no, that's the whole point, is that he is a racist, sexist asshole. Of course, you do kind of get to enjoy his thing. So, I'm sure it's been a little while since I've read Flashman books, so I'm sure I'd have issues with them too. Drama going on in the background. So yeah, George MacDonald Fraser's Flashman series. I think I've also got some of his other. I've got a little memoir of his, The General Danced at Dawn, and God, I think I even have a Pirates book somewhere around here somewhere that I would like to read of him. So yeah, that's my choice for that one. God. Number 4. F is for the love of God. An experience of an extreme exasperation while reading. For me, the first one that comes to mind is Extremely Loud. I always get it. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer for his 9/11 novel, which has a precocious child narrator, which I guess if you're into that, you're into that. But if you find that grating and cloying and overly sentimental, you'll have a lot of exasperation with that book, which is what I had. Recently, I've been reading Edgar Rice Burroughs books, and they have actually a delightful exasperation. In The Princess of Mars, it's an air supply for the whole planet that's only manned by 2 people. Just like, what the hell's with that? And at the moment I'm reading Gods of Mars, John Carter, the main character, meets this young fellow who he likes the cut of the jib of, and he looks strangely familiar. And as you're reading these books in the context, you know immediately who this guy is. But he teases it for 4 entire chapters of like, they never exchange names. They don't say names. Oh, they get interrupted. They can't say names. And it's just like, for the love of God. It's kind of exasperation, but it's just also, there's a strange admiration that's like, you're messing with us. You're just messing with us right now for fun, aren't you? Yes. In that kind of old-timey pulp way, which I have a sweet tooth for. So number 5, F is for Find, a book with a lot of F's in the title. Bonus points for more than 2. I didn't do that one. Number 6, F is for Father, a work of fiction in which fatherhood is a central concern. And that would probably be, I think I picked, yes, Art Spiegelman's Mouse. My Father Bleeds History is chapter 1. And indeed, this is Art Spiegelman, kind of naturally another thing of autofiction, of him struggling with his father's history of being a Holocaust survivor, and also his father's struggle of that time. So there's a really, it's an amazing graphic novel of the interplay between the father and the son's story, and just the lens of the father's story through the son. So yeah, that would be definitely my pick for F is for Father. Number 7, F is for Finland. Finland, the place that I want to be. Yes, books set in Finland or by a Finnish author you'd recommend or would like to try. Tom of Finland came up immediately to my head, which don't Google that because it might tell you a little bit more about me than you want to know. I've got no Finnish authors. I looked at Finnish authors and it was just like, I'm sure there's somebody there that would be of interest to me, but goodness knows what. Don't Google Tom of Finland. That's all I have to say. Number 8, well, unless you're into hunky muscular guys. Number 8, F is for Fangirl, a new or new to you writer that you're really excited about. I guess Hilary Mantel doesn't count. Sigrid Undset, and I picked up her latest hot off the presses, which is The Master of Helsviken, after reading Christian Lavensdatter. This is actually, the Christian Lavensdatter was actually a fairly recent translation. This one, which is another book of four books, was first published in 1928. So it's the next book after Christian Lavensdatter. So hot off the presses there. That's my fangirl thing. At least I'm a total fangirl for Sigrid Undset. So we'll see if that lives up to the hype. Number 9, F is for Fling. You love one book by this author, but nothing else. Which is like, if I only loved one book, it would either have to be a book that really sank with me and then I just couldn't get into the other ones. Actually, the one that came up, which it's probably not fair because he has actually written a couple of other books I just haven't picked up yet, but it's The Children's Hospital by Chris Adrian. I love this book. I've only read it once. I loved it when I read it, but I've never gotten around to any other books by the author. Whether out of my own inertia, I think I've even got somewhere around here, I've got like maybe the book before this, and he's published a book after this, which I've just never picked up, which is odd. It's odd that it's just like it's like I just have this book, and it's a very, very, very odd book. I think it's one of those ones I'm gonna have to reread. It's like the world is flooded and this hospital is floating in the giant sea. So there's kind of a very much Noah's Ark kind of thing there, but it's a children's hospital. Chris Adrian was a medical doctor, and it actually handles the thing of sick children in a non-maudlin way, coming from Saffron Foer and his very maudlin handling of a child in a crisis. This is a book that has like sick and dying children in it, but just manages to kind of treat them as human beings and not as puppets to push around the stage for the author's amusement. So yeah, Chris Adrian. That's not me saying that his other books suck. It's like, strangely enough, I've never gone to his other books. I just love this cover, by the way. This is just like, this to me is how a perfect book is to me. I'm not quite sure why about that, and it's not like I'm big into crosses or anything. So who knows? Number 10. F is for Friends, a novel that satisfyingly explores friendships. Who knows? For bonus things, I am going to go with Movie, your VHS copy movie that you have, which would of course be Framed, starring peak Jeff Goldblum and peak Kristen Scott Thomas, who have had many, many, many peaks in their careers. This is a 1990 HBO made-for-TV movie back when HBO was not the prestige thing. It has strong memories in my mind because it's like kind of a 1990 movie that when I was on my honeymoon with my wife in Cancun, and we were both suffering from horrible heat stroke and various other ailments, we watched this movie a lot of times. So this is a honeymoon movie for me, which is interesting because it's a con man movie, and who can you trust, and complicated male female relationships, all within the kind of very kind of light romantic comedy of the 1990s. Kristen Scott Thomas definitely must be coming off of Four Weddings and a Funeral, that kind of feel. So if you're wanting more of that, but with a Jeff Goldblum spin, I guess that's what you can go with. It's probably a 5-star, 3-star movie, if you know what I mean. Yes. So, and then 11 is for Far and Wide. Far and Wide. I'm sure people will be doing this tag. More videos later.